Folks, this is a white whale moment for us here at Theater and College Hoops because we got a March Madness legend joining us today. We welcome a man who played professionally in countries like Austria, Switzerland, and the Netherlands, a man who has coached at Drake and Nebraska. He is currently an assistant coach at Colorado State, but you may know him best from his iconic dagger against Kansas in the 2010 NCAA tournament. We are so lucky to sit down with former Northern Iowa basketball star Ali Farokhmanesh. Ali, how are you doing today, man?
Good, doing well. Appreciate you having me on too, and appreciate the kind words too. That's 2010 now. That sounds like a long time ago.
You don't look a lick over 26, man. You're looking good
Man,
for all the amount of coaching you're doing.
Hey, with 4 kids now, like it's gonna get gray pretty soon here.
Well, we really appreciate you jumping on, and we're gonna get into everything from Colorado State to the shot, your background. But first and foremost, you're riding a 3-game winning streak. As we're recording this, this will come out next week. But as we're recording this, you got San Jose State in Moby tonight. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the locker room to spark this little winning streak going on here.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. Obviously, we had a really good non-conference. Ended up with only 1 loss to St. Mary's at home. And actually, that game we were missing 2 of our top 6 guys. Both of them were guards, which obviously St. Mary's is pretty guard oriented. So that was a tough pill to swallow, that game. But obviously we got the highest ranking in the country or in our program's history at 13th in the country. And then we went on a little bit of a slide. Obviously the Mountain West it's a tough league, and we opened up our first 3 road games. I think we're all quad 1 road games. So there's only a few leagues that you can say that in, that you go on the road 3 times and it's all quad 1s. So it's awesome being in the Mountain West. And then 3-game win streak right now, to be honest, should be 4. We were up 11 with 1 minute to go against Wyoming. And honestly, that was probably what kick-started the whole thing, is that we kind of got our edge back to us, and we got our edge back by playing kickball with the guys after that loss. So
really
a little more unorthodox way and approach to things, but it's obviously worked, and Coach Medved's done a great job of pushing the right buttons at the right time.
Who's the star in kickball then? Who can play with their feet a little bit?
Yeah, surprisingly, it was our star point guard was the star too. He Isaiah Stevens kicked one in the outfield to win the game for us, and then our coaching staff on the other team, not my team, on the other team, had some bad base running techniques, and it just fell apart for him.
We're gonna unpack all of that, including the Mountain West, which is just a bear of a conference, Ali, and that loss to St. Mary's. I know you don't want to hear it. I know Coach Medved doesn't want to hear it. I know the players don't want to hear it, but ain't no shame in losing to St. Mary's, because I think they're one of like 3 teams who are currently undefeated in conference, and they're rolling right now. Very quality opponent. But what I want to first start with, Ali, is how we got you onto this program, which is half because of how kind and generous you've been and your willingness to participate. But the other half is a good friend of yours, J.R. Blount, who's over there at Iowa State. I had asked him last episode who he'd recommend, and what I want to do is just play that clip. You may have listened to it and seen it, but I want our audience to listen to it, and then I want to get your reaction to some of his comments because they are funny. I found them funny, and it's a little bit long, maybe like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So bear with us, but I want to play this and then get your comments. All right.
Yeah, I'll go with probably my best friend in the business, assistant coach at Colorado State, Ali Farokhmanesh. He was a good player at Northern Iowa, made the shot versus Kansas. So, and every time during the NCAA tournament starts, I just start harassing him like, "Hey man, like you're gonna be famous again for another 5 days." But he's great friend, somebody I really rely on. Talk numerous times throughout the week. We're ranked 1 spot ahead of them today, so I'll have to give him some shit about that. But he's a great basketball mind, but even better person, father. When we were both at Drake together, we lived on the same block, and Colorado State, man, we were kicking it all the time. So that's my guy. And I would definitely recommend him. And he'll have longer stories telling you about how great his shot was and all that stuff.
Man, I'm already envisioning it. Like, I don't know how much we talk about Colorado State. I'd just be talking about that shot, like Brady Morningstar. I think the Morris twins
Yep.
were on Kansas. Like I was home from break and I think I was eating dinner and I was like, what the hell is he doing shooting this?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it's a crazy deal, but he'll also tell you that he made a game winning shot the game before that versus UNLV that nobody talks about. Like he'll act like it's not a big deal, but that one was like just the same shot. Like it just didn't get as much coverage because they went to the number one team in the country at the time. But he can still really shoot it, and we were a pretty good 2-on-2 tandem at Colorado State because he can shoot and I can guard, and he can't guard and I can't shoot. So we had a good balance, but we were good, and that's my boy.
if we're lucky enough to get him on, I will be playing that clip where you say he
Yeah.
can't guard. So let me make sure I get that right. But
Oh, he knows it.
J.R. Blount, this floor is yours.
He's not wrong. No, it's that's really cool to hear that as well. But obviously, Jr. and I probably people don't know that as much, but that's my best friend in this business, and it's awesome to see the success that he's having. Not only when we were together, but now watching him have success at Iowa State, and even the assistant coach that he works with is Kyle Green, who coached me at Northern Iowa. So there's a ton of connections over there, and they're obviously doing a phenomenal job. The job that TJ and that program's done, and JR has been instrumental in everything they've been doing. It's been fun to watch. So it's hard for me sometimes because I grew up in Iowa City and I also went to Northern Iowa. So like I have to root for Iowa State because that's my guy, but it does get hard at times.
I believe it. So, I mean, is there a fraternity of assistant coaches that are close like you and JR, right? Like everyone trying to grow their career, get to that next level while also having 10 toes where they are, feet where you are, right? Is there that fraternity of assistant coaches, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to have that. Honestly, for moral support, sometimes this job is really hard, and it's the ups and downs of a season you go through. It's crazy. Like, I mean, there was 3 days or like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago when we lost that Wyoming game. Like you would have thought we were done for, like we were never going to win a game again. And then you win 3 in a row now and everyone thinks you're amazing again. And so having people in your corner that aren't riding that wave of fandom with you, you need that, and you need that perspective. And I'm lucky enough that I have a really good circle, and it's a small circle, but it's a circle that I can go to when I'm down or when I just want to talk to somebody. And we all need that as coaches, just like players need those words of encouragement. I think coaches sometimes forget that we need that same level of encouragement at times too. And I'm lucky enough that I have a guy like JR in my corner that I can call when I just want to complain about something or need anything else going on. And yeah, it is a blessing to have somebody like JR in my corner. I think most people do have that. I know Coach Medved has his own mentors in his corner that he goes to as well. And that's probably every profession, but I definitely use it in mine.
I'm sure you guys do a great job of keeping out the noise, but I love what you said there because and maybe it's because I watch college basketball more than any other sport, but the pendulum just swings so much based off of one performance, just based off of 40 minutes of, 1 week you're talking about a certain team with a Final Four aspirations. Next week you're talking about, they're ripe for an upset in the round of 64, right? It's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like halfway through the season last year, like UConn was calling for Dan Hurley's job. When they went on a 4-game slide at one point. I think they lost like 4 out of 6 or something crazy like that, 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 7, and then win national championship. So I think it's the ebbs and the flows of the season, and then also the injuries and this guy getting sick, and shoot, that guy got COVID. Now he's got to wear a mask for 5 days. There's always something going on throughout a season, and honestly, in college basketball more than any other sport, in most sports, but it's just about peaking at the right time.
That's right. Let's take it back a little bit. All right. Let's turn back the clock. I think it's very important, Ali, for our folks and our listeners to get a better understanding of who you are. And so what I want to do is start with your recruiting process. Okay. Can you take us behind the scenes of when you were a junior, senior in high school, what the recruiting process looked like, and your decision-making process to go to UNI? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was not much of a process, meaning that I didn't get recruited a lot. I had some looks and everything. Honestly, I didn't have a Division I, Division II NAIA scholarship offer on the table coming out of high school. And I was first team All-State as a junior. Went to the state tournament, everything. Played AAU, did well in AAU. So it was hard though, being a 6-foot, undersized, not overly athletic basketball player like that. No one's knocking down my door to come give me a scholarship. So dealing with that was hard coming out of high school, especially putting as much time as I did into it. And then I decided to go to junior college out of high school. And I remember it was a big deal because my family they're big into education, like my extended family. And so they wanted me to go to a Division III school in Wartburg. Right? It's called Wartburg. It was in Iowa. My whole family went there to get my education. I remember getting a letter from one of my uncles saying that I was making a huge mistake, that I needed to go through my education and whatnot. And like junior college was not going to help with any of that. And I mean, he's not wrong, but I wanted to pursue
handwritten letter.
Handwritten letter. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore because I was not going to do that. But that was kind of the fight that I was going through, is deciding like what to do from there. And was it to go? No one wanted me, so I wanted to prove it, and so I decided to go to JUCO over all those things.
And then, how did you end up getting on Ben Jacobson's radar then?
So then, actually, so then the story gets longer. So I go to
Please,
my first
that's
JUCO.
why you're here. I want to hear all of it.
It's kind of a journey. Go to my first JUCO, Indian Hills, which is one of the best JUCOs probably in the country. If people don't know about it, they pack it about 3,000 people every single night. So go there, and we go 31-0, and great season and whatnot. But if it gives you any idea of the situation that we were in, and you only have freshmen and sophomores, so everybody in my freshman class transferred out. So that kind of tells you exactly what's going on at that program. And we were undefeated. So I leave, and this coach didn't play me a lot. So then I go to Kirkwood Community College, go there, and I was deciding between walking on at Iowa or going to Kirkwood Community College to play one more year. And I actually tried to walk on at Iowa, and they said no. And my mom was the volleyball coach at Iowa too, so it's a big no. So then I go to Kirkwood, end up playing really well, end up playing the JUCO that I transferred from, where the coach said I wasn't good enough. And that was what propped up my recruiting, is we beat them in this big game, and I ended up with 37 points. We won in triple overtime. And that was kind of what jump-started my recruiting. And then it was between Northern Iowa and St. Louis with Rick Majerus out of junior college. And I decided to go to Northern Iowa, and it had a lot to do with that I was going to get a chance to play with two really good bigs. I thought they could have a chance to be good in that next 2 years, and everything kind of worked out from there.
How cool is that? You got to have a conversation with Rick Majerus, huh?
Yeah, no, and then I had to tell Rick Majerus I wasn't coming. And,
that's probably tough.
That conversation did not go as well. It was about a minute long, and I was really close to going there. Like I really was. He wrote me a handwritten letter in the process about, and he did it, like that's where I learned recruiting, because he played it up about Steve Nash and working with Steve Nash, and that was my childhood. Like that's who I looked up to. So he played that up pretty good. And it was hard to say no. It was hard for me to say no to him. It was pretty easy for him to respond to my no.
So what was the tipping point then with Ben Jacobson? Like just anything personal? Was it playing style? You mentioned the two bigs, but was there anything specifically with Ben?
It was partly, and we always joke about this now, I don't recruit Iowa very often anymore, because I don't think Iowa kids leave Iowa too often. And honestly, that was part of it. Like I wanted to stay closer to home. And then at the end of the day, I did think they could win. I did trust the vision that Coach Jake had, and for not only me, but the team and his belief in me. I really did believe that he believed in me. And he showed that from the start of my career too. Like I think I made the right read on that, because he gave me so many opportunities to be successful. And I did not start out well my junior year there. And because he stuck with me is what paid off.
Knowing your path, do you ever just take a step back and kind of marvel at the fact that the progression of high school to JUCO to high level D1 isn't as much of a corner case, or isn't as rare as it was when you were coming up, right? Like we see a lot of great JUCOs or great players at the D1 level who have a JUCO history, right?
No, absolutely. And I think everybody's like, and everybody says that, but everybody's path is different. And I think it's it's really the guys that persevere through all those ups and downs that make it out. And there's very few that can do that because of the struggles and the failures and how many times you get told no and how many times you're not good enough or you're too this or not enough that. And to be able to fight through that and keep that belief, I think that's the main thing, to keep that belief and really keep pursuing your dream and the work that you're putting into it. But that's why I love JUCO too, because it really is last chance you. Like there was nothing that everybody is fighting for the same thing at that point. And that's what I loved about it. Like it was eat or be eaten. That was what JUCO was. And I loved it. And that's the only reason I am the way I am now. That's JUCO brought out a lot of that in me.
Now, how about your coaching journey? So we talk a little bit about your playing days, but Ali, take us from the point where you had to stop dribbling the ball and you decided to yourself, I want to go be on the sidelines. Like, first of all, I can only imagine that's a very difficult internal monologue after having played for as long as you have, and the career that you had on the court. Take us through that decision-making process and that transition. And then of course, all of your stops, which I had mentioned, Drake, Nebraska, where you are today. Take us through that whole process if you could.
Yeah. It was hard. My last year was actually probably one of not my best year, but it was one of my better years playing professionally. I was sixth man of the year in Holland. We made it to the championship game in the playoffs and lost in game 7. So like awesome season. And they wanted me to come back for more money and everything. And I was going to, and then me and my wife got pregnant and we decided the best thing was to have the baby, in the US. And so that was kind of the decision to end the career at that point. And I got lucky enough that I got on with Coach Miles, Tim Miles, who we're playing tonight. And so I was lucky enough to get on staff with him, and he broke me into college coaching. And then it goes back to the fraternity thing though. So he broke me into college coaching at Nebraska. I was there for 3 years. And then what broke me into an assistant position was Nico, who I'm with right now. Nico took the job at Drake University, and previously before that, Nico was an assistant for Tim Miles at Colorado State. And so goes back to the whole fraternity of coaching, and it's the people that know you are the ones that get you the jobs. And that was my connection, is Miles to Nico. And I was lucky enough that Nico took a chance on me. And then I was an assistant at Drake with him for that 9 months. And then he took us all to Colorado State, and I've been with him for the last 6 years now.
I think it was JR that I was talking to that you say the college basketball space and the personnel, it's huge, but it's really kind of small when you really think about it, huh?
Yeah, no, it is. It's large on a full scale when you look at it and whatnot, but honestly, it's not even the Kevin Bacon 3 degrees of separation. Like there's probably 2. And somebody that knows somebody. And that's why I think you find out who's really good, who's a genuine person, and who are the real people in this business pretty quickly. And I'm lucky enough that I've been blessed to meet a lot of the good ones.
We've been blessed enough to have a lot of the good ones on this program. And I feel like I've hit Iowa pretty hard. Like you're from Iowa, obviously had J.R. Blount. A couple of years ago, we actually had Matt Gatens on. Did you ever cross paths with him at Drake?
Yeah. So I played against Matt in high school, actually.
Wow.
Hey, and you can ask him too. He was 0-4 against me in high school. Just if we can make sure whenever you get him back on here again, play that clip.
Ollie, here's what this is. This is just going to be a chain of trash talk, right? It started with JR saying
just Iowa guys back to back.
I like it. You can't guard, so we'll put it on down now to Matt, and then Matt is gonna have to carry that on. I'll clip that and send it to him. Okay?
Exactly.
Let's pivot now to this season and your team. All right, Colorado State. We already talked a little bit about the Mountain West. I described it as a bear. There's so many other descriptors though. And the thing that stands out to me, Ali, when I look at the results and I look at the games, is that it seems impossible to get like an 8-game winning streak going in this conference. Not to say that it's not attainable, but I highlighted the fact that you're on a 3-game winning streak because to me, that's really impressive in this conference, especially this year. Can you give us a little bit of insight, take us behind the curtain of what it's like playing in this conference night in and night out. Like we've had assistant coaches join us that obviously JR in the Big 12, not an easy task. Mike Burgomaster at Auburn's in the SEC, but the Mountain West, man, what is it like night in and night out this year?
Man, it's hard. The venues are awesome. I think what's hard for us too is two of the teams that usually have lower attendance are our rivals. So when we go, like everyone else goes and plays Wyoming, like New Mexico played Wyoming, I think on Tuesday this week, and there was like 3,000 people there, right? We go play Wyoming and there's 11,000 people there. And so I think that's the thing for us is, and we go to Air Force, like for everybody else, there's maybe 1,500 people. For us, like it's going to be 4,000. It's going to be packed. And then everywhere else, obviously, you go to San Diego State, you go to Nevada, you go to Boise. We go to not as much UNLV right now, but like you go to those places, and Utah State, that's one of the best environments in the entire country. It is hard to win there. Not only are they really good teams, but those venues they're rocking. And I think for anybody that hasn't been to a Mountain West conference game in February between two of the top 7-8 teams in the league, it's a must-do thing. Like you got to go to the Pit, you got to go to Viejas for a game, you got to come to Moby for a game. Lawler, if you go to a UNLV Nevada game, like man, that is awesome environment. So any chance that would be my one thing to tell anybody is if you have an opportunity to go to a Mountain West Conference game between two of the top 8 teams in this league, you're gonna have a great time and you're gonna see some high level basketball.
Yeah. You're obviously focused on your team and your players. Is there any attention paid to how you want to advocate for the Mountain West? So what I mean by that, Ollie, is that there's a lot of chitter chatter rhetoric around, the Mountain West could get 5 teams, potentially 6 bids. Does that resonate with you guys at all? Or are you just 100% focused on what's going on in your camp?
You hear it, but I think you try your best just to keep the noise out too. Like it doesn't matter if we lose 8 in a row right here. Like we ain't there's no bubble anymore. So I think it's game to game, and you got to keep your head down and keep going. Like, do you notice that we have a chance to have 5 or 6 teams in? Yeah, because when I go on the road at Nevada and it's packed and sold out, and they got Jared Lucas and Blackshear hitting 10 off the dribble 2-point mid-range jumpers that my analytics people are telling me that's a bad shot, but they go 10 for 12 on. Well, yeah, I guess it's a good shot now. So I think that's what's hard. That's what's awesome. That's what's exciting about this league from a coaching perspective. You don't like it because like I don't want to go against Jared Lucas and Blackshear each night. I don't want to see Tyson Degenhardt, just one of the most sound players in this league, score 25 on 12 shots. You can go down the list. I mean, UNLV is the 7th right now. They're 7th in our league, I think, and they have a player, Caleb Boone, that was all Big 12. His brother, Keelan, is I don't know how he left the Big 12, but he's really good. Deadon Thomas could go anywhere and be a point guard at any place in the country right now, and that's the 7th place team in our league. I think that's what's crazy about being in this league is the 7th place team in our league could beat anybody in our league, and I would put them against probably anybody in the country too.
The personnel, you mentioned the venues and the arenas, and that's absolutely a contributing factor as to why it's so difficult to play in your conference. But the personnel, I feel like, has never been more talented, more driven, and just great players. And you got a gem on your own team, and we're going to get to him in just a second. But yeah, you mentioned the Boone brothers. Jared Lucas has played an Elite 8 game at Oregon State, right? There's tournament experience. Let's not forget the national runner-up that plays at Viejas, right? So the personnel has just been really, really striking to me, and that includes and potentially is topped off by your guy Isaiah Stevens. Ali, I have this thing this little bit called the foxhole. All right, these are my foxhole guys, and it's only limited to point guards in the country, and it sounds exactly like it does. These are guys I want in my foxhole. Right. Over the years, it's been dudes like Carson Edwards or Dwan Harris, right? Tristan Newton's up there. Earlier this year, I think it maybe took 4 or 5 games where I was like, get Isaiah Stevens in here. I'm going to let you wax poetic about this young man. Man,
best point guard in the country. I don't think that's if anybody actually watches our games consistently, I don't know how you can't say that. Does it all. I mean, he's averaging 17 points a game. I think I think his splits are like 86 from the line, 51 from 2, and 45 from 3 or something like that. There's not very many point guards doing that, and then also averaging 7+ assists per game on a team that's a top 25 type team. It's just not happening. I think there was some stat he's the only player in the country averaging over 15 points and over 7 assists a game. So I guess you don't have to listen to me. You can just look at the numbers, and I think that can point that out. And then the stuff that you don't see every day is what makes him elite. Every day in practice, he's coaching our defense as much as I'm coaching our defense. He's talking about cutting hard as much as I'm talking about cutting hard. And there's no price tag. There's no set value on the things that he does that don't show up in our stats, don't necessarily show up in the box score, but I know show up when we win games. And it all happens from everything that he does in the summer, everything that he tries to do to connect the group in terms of taking them to movies and going to do random things together. Like, he gets it from all the perspectives of winning that also don't have to do just with basketball. And that's why he's the best point guard in the country. It's not just the numbers.
Guard to guard, coach to player. What has it been like for you seeing him evolve? And I mean, how much do you think your imprint and your coaching has impacted his growth as well? Because there has to be something said for you speaking the same position language.
Yeah, it was funny. Last night or yesterday, we were shooting. No, 2 days ago, it was in warmups before the game. We were shooting, doing his pregame routine, and I just said, like, "Hey, hip drive, hip drive, hip drive." And while I was saying it, like, he did it instantly. And I was instantly thinking, I was like, man, this is gonna be hard. And I was telling him, I was like, because Kyan Evans he's our freshman point guard right now, and he's talented too. Like, honestly, he would be playing heavy minutes for us if he wasn't backing up an All-American. But I was telling him, I was like, man, all these terms and phrases that I use with you, I just say them, and like, you know it now. And now it's going to be an adjustment for me when I have to go get back with Kyan now and like re-explain some of those simple things that now Zay and I just have that connection because I've been coaching him for 5 years and I've known him for 7 years. And I was telling my wife that the other day, like, when he leaves, it's gonna be hard. Like, I haven't, I've coached him for more than half of my coaching career has been with Isaiah Stevens in some capacity. Wow. And I think that's going to be hard for me. I've only been an assistant for 2 seasons without Isaiah. And I think that's crazy in today's age to be able to say that, man, my whole career I've really only known one point guard.
That is wild. It's like, I mean, obviously you're a parent as it is, but it's like you're a proud parent, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's weird to say that because he's only like 12 years younger than me, but like, it's weird to say that, like, you feel like that. You feel this sense of pride and excitement because you know his dreams and aspirations, and man, he's reaching them.
Yeah, absolutely is. How about the other guys though? You have a well-rounded roster, and it's part of the reason, it's a big reason why as a team, you're very, very strong. But when I look at Colorado State, obviously I think the head of the snake is Isaiah, who we just spoke about, but who can you educate people on that are poised to make big jumps, or that you say to yourself, look, Zay can do whatever he wants, but we absolutely need these other guys uplifting and contributing as well? Like, who are some of those X factors that maybe the country doesn't know about?
I think it's a fun group with interesting stories too. And I think that's what makes our team dynamic. Also, they have a chip on their shoulder, but it also gets you more intrigued to know more about them. Like, our starting center, our starting front court is Division II. So our 5-man was an All-American at Hillsdale College in Michigan, has every post move in the book. Footwork is insane, shoots a 3 at 41%. And he looks like he could be begging groceries for you. Our starting 4-man was the D2 National Player of the Year. He's from Colorado. His brother was actually was a Hall of Famer at Colorado. And so for him, choosing Colorado State over and whatnot, and then us beating them at home, like, that meant everything to him. And he's a 6'7" undersized 4-man. It's really 6'6" probably. And then our starting 3-man is a transfer from Colorado, who we recruited insanely hard out of high school. Obviously made the wrong choice and went to CU first, but then came to us, and he was coming off averaging 4 points a game at CU. And he's averaging almost 15 points a game now, and his true shooting percentage is like 12th in the country or something. Or it was maybe last week. It was insane numbers. He's averaging like 14 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 2 assists a game coming off a year where he shot 28% from 3. Now he's shooting 47. So in terms of like just all those stories, and then you mix in our 2 guard who came to us from Illinois State last year, got mono. So out of the group of people that get mono, then he gets this thing called long mono that only affects 10% of the people that actually get mono. And so he misses the entire season. And we don't know what's going on with him. It took us forever to figure those things out. Now he comes back this year for his 6th year, and he's our best defender. He's leading the country at 6'3", in terms of 2-point field goal percentage, which that's insane. And he's not just shooting layups; they're pull-up jumpers too. And there's more guys I can talk about too. But in terms of just that starting 5, it's their stories and the things they've had to go through to get to here. It's incredible. And there's one more. I mean, we have a D3 kid that comes off the bench for us. His nickname's Headband Joe. And so you look at this group, and it's a bunch of misfits that were told no, that they weren't good enough, they weren't this, they weren't that. And shoot, now they're all part of the 13th or was the previous 13th ranked team in the country, and chance to win a Mountain West title and play in the NCAA tournament.
What are some, from a coaching perspective, what are some of the challenges and obstacles with coaching these quote unquote misfits at the beginning and getting them to grow? And tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that actually make it easy as opposed to coaching like a 5-star heavily recruited guy.
Yeah, I think there's an edge that they have, a chip on their shoulders that they have, that helps them want to grow, want to get better, want to prove something wrong, prove something, whether that's prove somebody wrong or prove themselves right. There's a different edge to this group in terms of that. And then they're genuinely easy to coach because they're good kids. And I wish there was more to that, but they really are. They're genuinely good kids. And that's by design too. Like, we recruit a certain type of kid with a certain type of character. And that's always held true. And I really believe that's why we've been successful here, is because of the type of kids we recruit, but then the circle around those kids is what makes our jobs a heck of a lot easier.
Another reason why you're so successful is Coach Medved. What's it been like working with him? And also, can you tell us a little bit about what he's like off the court? Give us insight into what we may not know about Coach Medved. What's it been like in your relationship with him?
Yeah, he's awesome. He's one of the best in the country in terms of knowing, like, understanding people, knowing people, and then when to push the right buttons. And I think it's obviously from the basketball perspective, like, he's elite, but I think what separates him from everybody else is his understanding of people and how that is everything. And that's what he's so good about managing within a season. Because just like we talked, the ebbs and the flows of the season, if you're riding the wave, like, you're gonna get lost. And he's so good about having perspective of where you're at, what's going on, and what's actual reality in the situation. Like, you lose to Wyoming we're up 11 with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. So if anybody hasn't watched that, go watch that collapse. That's amazing. Almost worse than Northern Iowa versus Texas A&M. And the funny part was, like, and that goes back to, like, Coach Jake too. Like, he called me after that game and talked to me specifically. And I think that says a lot. But in terms of Coach Medved and that perspective, we lose that game and we are all losing our minds. Like, there was 2 horrific, I don't know if I can say that, I'll say it, 2 horrific calls by refs, couple awful decisions by us. And then they made every play that they needed to. So you combine all those things. Yeah, you lose an 11-point lead in the last minute. And after all that, and we're all upset and they're upset, we've got great kids, so we know they're hurting too. And then you go on social media, what do you think everybody's saying? The worst kind of stuff, right? And they're all reading it, whether they want to tell us that or not. And so we came in the next day on Sunday, and we're playing San Diego State on Tuesday, right? That's probably one of the toughest home games you have all season. And we decide to play kickball. And we go out, it's 60 degrees outside in Fort Collins. The sun's out right now. And we played kickball in sweatshirts and shorts, and it was competitive and it was fun, and we were trash talking, and it allowed them to let go. And then we bounced back, and now we're on the 3-game win streak right after that kickball game. And I'm on a 4-game win streak because I'm counting the kickball game. The rest of the staff's on a 3-game. I'm on a 4-game.
There you go. I love that. I do think that's really fascinating. And you read my mind I'm very glad that you took us behind the scenes after that Wyoming loss and the lead up and what's been going on here during this win streak. By the way, again, very lucky to have all these assistant coaches on. We had Mitch Cole, who's doing a wonderful job down at Samford with Bucky McMillan, but he was on that Texas A&M coaching staff. So he was on the sidelines there, and I did have to ask him about that. So I've now gotten two different vantage points of that wild game.
No, it was that was awful. I was watching that UNI game, and yeah, that was awful. So I'm sure it was great for him, but that was awful for me.
Well, so here's some medicine. Let's talk about one of the most iconic shots in NCAA tournament history, if you don't mind. Ali, let me start with this. How many cumulative hours or minutes do you think you've spoken about this?
Man, a lot.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to try and ask questions that you may have not heard before, or at the very least been rare. Okay. So feel free to roll your eyes at me and be like, I've heard this a million times. I'm doing my best. I promise. Let me start with this. All right. And we'll get into the nitty gritty of the shot and everything, but let me start with this. Have there been any, I don't know if drawbacks is the best word, but have there been any negative impacts or drawbacks that you've experienced from that shot?
Man, maybe my players now shooting awful shots. No, I don't know if there's any drawbacks. No, and to be honest, even if it's the same questions over and over and whatnot, or the same exact response over and over, it brings back such nostalgic memories that like I do love talking about it. And I don't think that's a cocky thing or an arrogant thing. I think that's what, when you get older, like that's you look back on those memories. And I don't necessarily think about the shot, but obviously the shot brings me back to remembering the season and remembering my teammates and remembering being at the school at the time when everything was going on and all those things. And so it wouldn't bring me back to those memories if I don't think probably if the shot doesn't get brought up all the time. And because of that, like it does, it reminds me of all those great times and also wants me to reconnect with everybody that I was there with everybody that I was at UNI with too.
You may have answered this in your response just now, but is this sound basketball? Is this something you would teach? And like, is there a corner case scenario where you would say, yes, this is the right play? And I'm asking this in all earnestness and seriousness.
Honestly, no, probably not. But I will say this too, like if you really went back and watched most of the film from like 2 years at Northern Iowa, I shot a lot of those shots in general. And that was partly because Coach Jake gave me a ton of confidence. Like he never questioned any shot I shot. And he told me that on the phone on Sunday when we were talking, actually. He's like, if you put in the work, I'm not going to question what your decision-making is then. And that's always stuck with me. Like if I see you working on your game to that level and you're in the gym all the time and you're putting in all the extra hours, I'm going to give you more leeway to try some stuff and to be more aggressive because you've earned that right now. And I think that's held with me now through coaching. And I think that's why I wouldn't question guys too often. I think there's a difference between someone taking an aggressive shot and a selfish one. And I think
what is that difference as a coach? What is that difference?
I think if you just standing up there and you're just dribbling the ball and there's no movement, it's not within any flow of what you're trying to do, and you're just jacking a shot, or you shoot a contested one when you could have one-mored it to your teammate for an open one, like that, those are selfish shots. I don't, and maybe someone says it's different, but I don't think my shot that I shot was selfish. I honestly thought that was the best decision to make at the time, and I felt like I was open, so I shot it. And I think that's what we try to teach here. We don't teach shot selection all the time, but we try to teach them what is a good shot and what's a great shot, and then also what is a selfish shot and what's an aggressive shot. There is a difference.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting to hear. All athletes have envisioned at some point like hitting the game-winning shot as the buzzer goes. So I don't want you to tap into your brain when you were out in the backyard shooting with your family or your friends or anything like that, but tap into your brain when you saw your name UNI on Selection Sunday. At any point between then and the end of your season, did you think, or excuse me, at any point between Selection Sunday and that shot against Kansas, did you think to yourself, there is going to be a moment where I'm going to have to hit a dagger 3 or a dagger shot or make this assist? Like, was there any, did you have any sort of prediction in your own head that this would come to fruition?
No, I just went out and played, to be honest. And I think I always just loved competing. And my mom was a coach too, so she always taught me, like, you just do control what you can control and let your work take care of the rest. And I think that's what I've always stuck with, is like, okay, I can control how hard I compete. I can control like how good of a team I am, how much I hustle, how locked in I am, how focused I am for the game. And then if I'm making or missing shots, like, I've already shot 10,000 shots since this summer. So like, I just have to trust what I've done at that point. And if I make or miss, like, I don't necessarily have control over that all the time. And I think that's what I stuck with. And that's kind of what kept me aggressive too. Cause I didn't worry about makes and misses. Like, I shot enough shots, like some games I was going to make and some games I was going to miss it. And I think that's what you have to have as a shooter and a scorer, is that kind of short-sighted memory, and move on.
Let's go into the film room. All right. Cause now I want to get into the nitty gritty of the shot. I'm like, I've been watching it this past week, and I'm like rewinding it like the refs do in college basketball with the reviews that take way too long. You don't have to say it. I'm going to say it.
Subject, yeah.
Tyrell Reed jabs at you, and then he kind of retreats, and then you gather. When you saw that, was that the space you needed? It looked like a cat and mouse game. Was that kind of the space that you needed?
Yeah, I think it was just one of those instinctual things when you're playing. Like, I caught it, was going to keep going forward. Then he backed up, and at that point, we hadn't. And if you watch the flow of the game, we hadn't crossed half court in like the last 3 minutes. Like, we were actually up 12. Yeah. And I don't think people forget about that too. It was like we were beating them. And then we made some rough decisions against the press too. It could have been the Texas A&M game right there. But and that's probably why I did shoot it. I wanted to make the next play, and Coach Jake was always saying, like, players got to make plays. And I think that's part of the game. And sometimes you look at analytics and everything, and I get it. It like, analytics help you look at it after the game from like hindsight's 2020. So I look at the analytics, like I can make a lot more decisions. But in the game, it's still about people and how you're feeling in those moments and what's going on. And in that moment, I felt like that was the best shot. I felt good about it. And I don't know why I had missed my previous 6 in a row up to that shot. So, which like, so I made my first 5 to start the game, missed 6 straight. And then then I made that last shot.
That's crazy. Like, you talk about ebbs and flow of season. You can just look at it in one game.
Isn't that funny? Like, it happens in a game. And I think that's the biggest thing in probably life, but probably in basketball that teaches you about life, is you got to be where your feet are, and you can't get caught up too much in the past, and you can't get caught up too much in the future either.
Yeah. With that shot, I think a lot of folks think that it was a wide open shot, but for me, there was a challenge that came late out of the side. Did you feel that challenge coming from your blind side? I forget exactly who it was, but could you feel that? And did that rush you at all? I mean, you made the shot, but did that impact you in any way?
No, I mean, honestly, being a smaller guard my whole life, I had to jump on my jump shot just to get it off. So like, I didn't know. I didn't even notice it.
That's funny. Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, this is coming out of the corner of his eye. So you mentioned also the press though. The pass, I think, before you got the ball almost got stolen.
Yeah, and he traveled actually too on the catch, but we can skip that.
When you're looking at when you're looking at that down the court, are you almost saying like, "Oh shoot, I got to get back," or were you just like, "Please, recover this basketball"? What's going through your head during that?
That was stressful. It almost got stolen twice, like the initial inbounds and then the one up the sideline. We were having a lot of trouble getting it. But yeah, that was crazy. I literally almost got stolen. And I mean, if that ball gets tipped, it's a completely different situation. And everyone talks, it's a game of inches, but it is like a guy tips that one pass, I probably don't get that shot. They tip the first entry, probably don't get the shot. And so all those sequences had to add up. And then at the very end of it too, if my roommate Jake Cook doesn't take a charge following my three, we're not just winning that game. Like, we have to get the ball back in again and play another possession out. So many things had to go right to get to that position of that shot. And then for Jake to be able to take the charge on the back end of it, that's the charge. Like, my shot obviously gave us the lead, but Jake Cook's charge is what you probably could say sealed the game.
So in just a matter of seconds, you go from Northern Iowa college basketball player to March Madness icon, legend, hero. Was there any time, Ollie, after that game where you were just, I don't know, kind of very briefly trained on what was going to come next in terms of media and dealing with everything from the outside? Like, was there a 5-minute, hey, this is what's going to happen next? Or were you just taking it on as is?
No, it was hard. Like, it was probably better now than it probably would be, or it was probably better back then than it would be now, in terms of just accessibility, with all the social media and everything. Like, obviously it's so much easier to get access to these players while they're playing. But it was exhausting. Like, that first week, I remember the first day back to class on Monday, I had an 8 a.m. finance class, and it was like, it was financial management. So it was awful. And, I couldn't stay awake. And I remember, like, I did the old, like, hand in my face, like I'm sleeping look while I'm pretending to look at my papers. And I remember my phone started blowing up, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And I look up from it, and our ops guy was the most recent text, and he was like, hey, you're going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I was like, what? I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get through this class right now. And then it was just everything. Like, you walk through the halls, and like, I had 2 guys like get on their knees and start bowing down. And it was just, it was everywhere. And that's what makes college basketball fun, though. And that's what makes it exciting. Is 2 weeks ago, and then, I love telling this story, but 4 weeks before that, we were playing Southern Illinois at home on ESPN2. And I was in my night class. It was Monday. I think it was a Tuesday night or something. And they were like, guys were just talking. I was right row behind them. And they're like, hey, are you going to that game on tomorrow? Like, ESPN2, like, I heard like student tickets are sold out already. Like, I gotta get my tickets now, blah, blah, blah. Guy turns back to me and he's like, hey, are you going to the game? And I was like, man, like, I get it, but I don't like, I always wear Northern Iowa like sweatpants and stuff. So they must've just thought I was like this big fan or something. And so I just said, yeah, I'll be there.
I'll actually have some pretty sweet seats, man.
Yeah. So going from 4 weeks ago, like, I'm getting asked, are you going to the game, to somebody chasing me down the hallways and bowing down, like, that was a little bit of a 180.
What a story. Thank you so much for that detail. My jaw literally dropped because I've been there. I've been there with the fatigue, and I'm tired, and the lecturer is not necessarily getting through to me, but that's where our similarities stop, because I didn't get the Sports Illustrated text, which is something else. I'm going to tell you a little bit of my perspective. I was at home during spring break, and I'm eating like my mom's pasta or something. And I remember just like the noodles kind of falling out of my mouth when I saw you launch that and hit. And I was like, oh my God. And truth be told, I'm sure I had Kansas going much further, but one of my cardinal rules is nobody cares about your bracket. We're rooting for upsets. Yeah. Now, I hope you don't get upset as a coach, but that's just the general rule, I would say.
No, absolutely. I'm on the same page with you with that.
Is this a shot that you use during recruiting visits?
No, I never talk about it. I never bring it up. Usually what happens is the high school coach, AAU coach, or it's got to be someone older, sends something or sends a video, and then the kid that I'm talking to will usually send it back to me and be like, Coach, I didn't know you had a burner. And so that's usually how it gets brought up. So yeah, I'd say that's most of the time how it gets brought up, is somebody else bringing it up to somebody that I'm recruiting, and then they usually bring it up, and then usually I beat them in horse at some point.
I see. Yeah. Let's get you out of here on a few quick hitters, handful of them actually, and let's have a little fun. We talked a little bit about venues. Ollie, you've played obviously at UNI, and now you're in the Mountain West, been at Nebraska. Drake, let's start with this. What is the best environment that you've played in? Cannot be home game.
That, like, I played in or coached into? Just played in?
We'll start with played, and then I want to get your perspective on coach.
played in, man, honestly, Iowa State for Hilton. Obviously, that's a rivalry with UNI and Iowa State, or it used to be. Now they don't play. That was a fun environment. We won that one. And then back in the day, like Wichita State and Creighton, those were always exciting environments, and especially Wichita State at that time when we were playing them. They were just kind of just on their rise with Greg Marshall at that time, and I think we were ranked like 19th and came into their place. And I don't know if you ever watched The Strangers. They have those like masks, and it's all like cut up, kind of. It's like meshed together. It's really creepy, and they only have the eye slits.
Yeah.
And there was 3 guys that were like leaned over the entryway when we were walking in there. They just leaned over like this, just staring at us, not saying anything, not doing anything crazy. And I remember looking at my point guard, Kajo, and being like, what is that? like I would rather it be super noisy than these people just staring at us dead silent and not making any noise, not gesturing anything, just staring at us. So like Wichita was awesome. Like that was always a fun place to go. Creighton, obviously, it was 17,000 people. It was a little more wine and cheesy crowd, but 17,000.
Yeah.
So those were some of the best environments and great atmospheres to play in.
Very rare is it that you get a former player saying it wasn't what they said, it's what they looked like.
I was scared. Like I somebody yelling something at me, like whatever, that's fine. But like just the mask with no words, like that's a different level. Like that, like I don't even know what you're going to do. That's what scared me. Like I like they could do anything. Like they're not even excited about the game. They're just staring at us.
Terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
Take me back a couple of years. Colorado State is getting prepared to play Michigan in the NCAA tournament. What was up with the plane issue? Are you able to elaborate on that?
Yeah, that was an NCAA thing. I don't know, they dropped the ball on that. They had us leave super late. And then the worst thing was too, like we were the higher seed, got sent to Indianapolis, which Michigan just played in the Big Ten tournament, and it was a 2.5, 3 hour bus ride from Ann Arbor. We're flying across the country, and we're playing in a time zone that was 2 hours behind us, and we're playing the first game of the day. So and there's no excuses. Like you got to go play the game, but yeah, they didn't do us a whole lot of justice with all that and the plane situation. I think we landed. Well, we played the Thursday game, so we landed late Tuesday night, and we didn't even know we were leaving Tuesday night till Tuesday morning. So yeah, but that's besides the point. If we don't let Hunter Dickinson go 9 for 10, we probably win too.
Yeah. NIL is huge these days. You know about NIL, I'm sure. Let's take it back to your college days, Ollie. Coupling everything with the shot, if you could choose your NIL for college, right, when you were playing, what would it be? Was there something on campus like a food place that you loved, a clothing department store? I don't know, like your favorite auto mechanic? I don't know, car dealer. If you could have your druthers and choose your NIL, what would it be?
I mean, for all my Iowa people, it's definitely Hai Chai. That's Hy-Vee Chinese food. So good. I would have gotten, if I could have gotten a deal to get Hy-Vee Chinese food at least 3-4 times a week, like I would have done any promotion. I would have dressed up as anything they wanted me to. Like I would have promoted it. That, and then Mulligan's, Peppers, those restaurants down there, like honestly, anything for food, because they couldn't feed us back then either. Mm-hmm. Like that's what, like the stuff that I think that needed to change in terms of, and I know some people don't like NIL, but I think it's great. I think it's great for the kids. I think it's great. I think there's some better ways that we can do it, because some of it is not name, image, likeness right now, but there's better ways to do it. Because like back then, like we'd got no food, we got no money. So I was lucky enough that my parents were in a good situation that they could help me out. But I mean, you got a $600 stipend for the month, 400 of it went to rent. Well, what was I going to do with the rest of it?
Yeah.
And so I think we go back and like, you should be grateful for what you have. Absolutely. But there's also something for everything that these kids do for the university and everything that they put into this. Like they should be living comfortably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can still value the education. Like the education is such a huge piece of it. That doesn't, just because we're making these kids' lives a little more comfortable and a little more easy and a little more conducive to the lifestyle that we're expecting them to live, that doesn't mean they don't value the education still. And I think that's a huge part of it. You you can get more than you ever could out of being a college athlete than ever before, with NIL, with education, with opportunities to meet all the people that have an impact on your career here in the program. It's better than ever for the players.
Did you ever see anyone like wearing your jersey around campus and you're kind of just like, I'm not even getting a cut of this? Because I remember I went to Arizona and I copped a bunch of like Chase Buttinger jerseys. I think I had like a Jordan Hill jersey. And as I've grown and matured, I'm like, those guys who gave so much to the school are probably just like, dang, I'm not getting any of this.
I never thought about it because it wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. At the time, I was just playing basketball, and I loved playing basketball. So I wasn't trying to get paid off it. So I saw it all the time, but I literally never crossed my mind once that why am I not getting paid for that?
Yeah.
I just thought it was awesome that somebody wanted to wear my jersey. Shoot, I was trying to walk on at Iowa 3 years before that. So for anybody who wanted to wear my jersey like that was enough for me. I didn't need money. Like, that was plenty enough for me. I felt way better about that, and somebody just being excited to do that than I was thinking about like, man, I should get something for that. And maybe it's different now for other people, but I honestly, like, no, I didn't. I never thought about it, never worried about it. I was just happy to be in the situation I was in.
Yeah. Such a magnificent trajectory, really. It's never ceases to amaze me however many times you say it, going from JUCO walk on to cover of SI. It's so cool. Hey, let's test your memory for a sec. Do you remember who was the play-by-play man during the Kansas UNI game when you hit that shot?
Kevin Harlan.
Yes.
Yep.
Do announcers ever attribute their great calls to you guys? Like, has Kevin Harlan ever come, and he's had a multitude of amazing calls, but did you ever interact with Kevin Harlan after that shot?
Yeah, he called me once. It was like right after, it was like probably a month or two later, and just talked to me and wanted to say, like, just talk about the game and everything. And it was awesome. And that was, if it wasn't Kevin Harlan calling it, the only other person I probably would have loved to have called my game would have been Gus Johnson.
Oh yeah, man.
If you could have one of those two, like, for that game, like, I would do either one's great. Like, Gus would be the only other one I would want to.
Gus might have fallen out of his chair, man.
Oh, it would have been epic.
Yeah. People always say this when a local legend makes a big time play, hits a big time shot, like, Ollie Farokhmanesh is never going to have to buy another meal, buy another drink, blah, 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 blah. Can you actually go back to Northern Iowa? And I'm not talking about the college, like the geographic range of Northern Iowa. Can you go back there and get a comped drink meal for free?
I don't know. I look like every other white guy, so like probably not. No, and it was funny though. I remember one of my teammates was out at a bar. It was after our season ended, and some guy that looked exactly like me was going around getting free drinks, saying that they were me. And I still remember this because my teammate took a picture with him because he didn't know who he was. And he was like, "Man, can I get a picture with you?" Took a picture with the guy and sent it to me. So somebody got it. Somebody got comped.
Unbelievable. Last couple things here, Ollie, and then I'm going to let you go because I know you got a big game to focus on. But let's have a little fun with word association, okay? First thing that pops into your mind when I say these words. March Madness.
Bryce Drew.
Oh, first memory?
First memory. That was my first memory watching March Madness was Bryce Drew's shot.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. Ben Jacobson.
Winner.
Nebraska ball.
Timmy Boy, because his nickname was always Timmy. Tim Miles, so it was always Timmy Boy. So I always thought I just remember as Timmy Boy.
You gonna be able to catch up with him after the game or anything like that?
I think so. He always makes it a point when we play him here that he's gonna try to stay an extra night if he can.
Des Moines.
Ooh, Jethro's.
What's Jethro's?
Jethro's is a barbecue spot. And
right.
we had so many unofficial visits when I first got there that I ate so much Jethro's that I probably can't. I love it, but I probably can't even go back there now.
I live in Chicago right now. I might have to mosey on over. I want to get over there.
It's really good. It's right by the Knapp Center where they play. Okay.
And then last but not least, Cedar Falls.
Home. Just home.
Yeah.
I think that'll always be part of home.
Appreciate you playing along. Ollie, this has been amazing. And I'm going to let you go. But before I do that, it's our last segment. I did it with JR, and I'm going to do it with you. It's called Bring 'em Up on Stage. Is there anyone else in the college basketball space, anyone at all, a colleague of yours that you would recommend I reach out to, text, and bother them as much as I have done with you, and have them come on and share some stories as you've been so kind to do?
Yeah, I think I would do David Velasquez at San Diego State. Just from I think it'd be a cool perspective, obviously with the national runner-up, the amount of success they've had at San Diego State, and he's been there for 20 years, going from a manager to an ops person to a coach now. He's kind of seen it all through that program, from even the bottom when they first got there and they were horrible. And they were like handing out tickets to people to come to games, to now they have sellouts constantly. And just, I think he'd be awesome to share that perspective and share a little bit more on the Mountain West too. But in terms of, I think people know San Diego State's success, and obviously last year helps, but to truly understand the growth of that program in the last 20 years is something really, really special. And I think like it's deeper than just that national championship run.
David Velasquez, you are next up. I may be tugging on your shirt to connect us, and then I promise that'll be the last you'll hear from me as it relates to this podcast. I'm going to be tracking Colorado State the rest of the way. I'm going to be checking in and congratulating you on soon-to-be wins. Best of luck, Ali Farokhmanesh, the legend. Thank you so much for jumping on, and again, best of luck moving forward. Okay.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.